This is Dave with Fry and Bacon Studios and another Game Salad tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Game Salad publishing system to publish your game for an ad hoc to publish to the arcade Android, to set it all up to publish for distribution on the App Store. So I've just got a blank project here we're going to work with because we're just going to get into the system and look at it all. So when you're ready to publish an ad hoc or publish to the arcade, or you want to test it out, or you're ready to distribute your app, we're just going to come up here and click the publishing button. What this is going to do is this is going to load your game up into the Game Salad servers. And we're going to come in and it's going to give us this option to create a new game or to update something existing that we've already published. So we're going to go ahead in this instance and we're going to go ahead and create a new game. Now we're into the Game Salad web publishing portal. Our game is uploaded on the server, and now we're going to put in the relevant information that we need for the type of build that we want to do to be able to get back what we want exported back, whether it be an Android or iOS or iPad, iPhone, Mac, Windows 8, whatever it is. We need to put in the relevant information for each section. So now basically what you have is a side menu here. So when you're at this place in the publishing system, you're actually in the place where you can publish every other kind of type of app or device that is available to you through these different selections. A lot of people get confused when they come here and they see, oh, this is the arcade. I don't want to publish to the arcade. Well, you just simply come down here in this sidebar and select the output that you want. So now let's talk about the publishing system and let's just look at basic iOS. Now you can put a game title in here. You could put an icon in here. You don't have to have an icon to publish an ad hoc. These are the three things that you need to be able to publish an ad hoc. The display name can't be blank, the bundle identifier can't be blank, and you must choose at least one of the four orientations. All this other information you actually don't have to put in. If you don't want an app icon, it'll just show a white icon with nothing on it. You don't even need to put a game title in here. Usually I just have a slate icon that I use that's the size 512 by 512 just to put in there for just to have for all the ad hocs that I do for different stuff. I just have it made and then I just use it as a slate. And later on I'll go back and change it when I'm going to do my publish to the App Store. So now that we're in the publishing system and we decide we're going to do universal iOS, we're going to go in and the first thing we want to do is put in the display name. Now the display name is basically just the name that goes under your app icon that shows up on the display. This actually doesn't even have to be the exact same name as your app name on the App Store. The app name that you have is just a listing for your app on the store. So if you have a long app name, Super World, Double Juggling Clowns, you can just put in the display name Juggling Clowns because that just has to do with what shows up on the device under the icon. It has nothing to do with how your app is searched for or whatever. So you can actually abbreviate this. You don't need to have the exact same name as your title. I always put a version number in here even though we don't need it, especially when you're using test flight. You want to make sure you version up all your stuff so that it keeps overwriting properly. And then you want to put in your bundle identifier, which you get or set up, which is basically what's called the app ID in the Apple Developer Publishing System portal. And it's basically, they say use a domain name because, well, a domain name can only be owned by one person. So this makes duplication much harder to do, that the odds it's not going to be duplicated. If you don't have a domain name or own a domain name, then you want to put something in here that you think nobody else will have. This doesn't show up or get displayed anywhere to users. So you can try different stuff. If at the end you go to Apple and they say, oh, somebody else just happens to have that same domain, set up a bundle identifier, you're just going to have to change it to something else and do it. So you want to put in here com domain name. Now this is where in another video where I talk about the wildcard bundle identifier that you can use with GameSalad and sign things with the asterisk or team ID or wildcard ID. You could basically type com.anything.whatever in here and use that same provisioning profile, the wildcard, for all your ad hocs, the GameSalad viewers. All you've got to do is make sure this end part is different from the other ones that you've made. So they just have to be in some way different than the other ones, because if you just use the same bundle identifier as far as naming convention, because what the asterisk means is you can put any name there at the end using that profile, and it'll write it out as a provisioning profile, being able to run on the devices you've selected to run with your wildcard profile. So you don't have to go through the hassle of making an app ID. You can just use, come right into the publishing system, use your wildcard ID all the time for your different ad hocs or the GameSalad viewers or whatever. And all you have to do is make sure this end part is different. Could even be different by one letter, one number, whatever. And what this will do is stop it from overwriting stuff on the device. Because if they have the same name, even though they're different apps, if they have the same bundle identifier, even using the wildcard, it'll overwrite it because that's how it sees it. So you just make sure you make them different, and you can use the same bundle identifier, that wildcard, for all your ad hocs. You don't need to make anything. So you can come down here and you can select your version of iOS that you're going to support, the minimum, whether you're going to want a glassy icon or not, and your supported orientations. And you have to select at least one to be able to do even an ad hoc. So now the interesting thing with Apple is in a few years ago, you used to have to, if you were going to be in portrait, the app had to be able to be flipped around in either direction. So you had to do both portrait orientations, the same way with horizontal. This isn't true anymore. Apple now lets you support a single orientation. The only caveat is that all your things have to be lined up, or from the beginning of the app to the end, everything has to display properly or start in that one orientation and never change to another orientation. So as long as you do that, you can go ahead and go with a single orientation, which is great for when you're doing certain camera offsets and such, using overscan for different aspect ratios. If you flip it around, sometimes the code messes up, so you can restrict it to one orientation. I've actually got an app published on the App Store for iPhone that went through no problem with a single orientation. And then we're going to come down here and do whether we're using our overscan or letterbox for our app. For ad hoc, you don't have to put any of these screen images, loading images in there. You can do it when you're going to distribute to the App Store, or if you're beta testing and you don't want people to see a black screen for those few seconds, you can put your image in, but you don't have to, not until the end. And then also, if you're doing an ad hoc and you've got everything set up in iTunes with your app ID and all that, so in this, if you're doing an ad hoc and you want to test your service configurations or your iAds or your mob clicks or your Playhaven ads, you're going to want to make sure that you use the bundle identifier or the provisioning profile that's associated with the app ID, that's registered with the app on iTunes, and all that's set up. And then you just come down here and turn on whatever advertising networks you're using, and you'll get their banner ads that are just not actually connected to the network, but just distribute a basic ad that shows up what it's going to look like. And so you can check to make sure that you're getting the feed from their server systems and that everything's set up. And then once you get all this stuff in, you're going to go ahead and click Generate App. So let's just go ahead and we'll just put some stuff in. And we'll put in a version number. And we'll put in and we'll go ahead and select an orientation. And we're going to use overscan, and we're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. And so now you'll see all those errors and all that stuff go away, and we could go ahead and just click and add an icon if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that. You don't even have to put a name in here. The only time you have to put the names and such and all this other information is if you want to put your listing on the arcade. There's certain things that you have to put in, all this different stuff to do it on the arcade, but we're just going to deal with a universal build. So then you're just going to go ahead and click on Generate App. It's going to give you a pop-up window saying, hey, all right, we're gonna make your app, so just wait a minute, and it's going to give you some little things about doing to the arcade and such, and it's going to tell us that yes, we're setting up your app right now. It may take a couple minutes. Now here's where things get a little hinky in the GameSalad publishing system. You don't always get back the next notification that we're going to get. And people will sit and wait for like 10, 20 minutes. What I usually do is I'll wait depending on I know how big my app is. So with this small app, I know it's probably it's probably ready by now to come back to me. So after a minute or two, just come up here and hit your refresh on your browser, and it's going to say reload. Don't worry about all that. Just go ahead and hit reload. And then you're going to come back down and come into your section that you were looking to publish out of, and you're going to see now it's telling me my app is ready. Pretty much you have to do this every time. This does not come up consistently. So now there are two places that we can sign the app. We can click here, or we can click here. So let's just go ahead and click here and see what happens, because sometimes this area will come up blank. See, like it did right now. This happens to a lot of people. And what they do is they actually go back through the whole process of uploading and all that. If this happens to you, and I was hoping this would happen, all you have to do is click cancel, move creator out of the way, and come back into the publishing system. Come up here and sign your app up here. I always sign my app with the sign app button just because I find it's more consistent. If I find that one is buggy, in other words, if I try to click here and it gives me that blank and I go back, or if I click here first and it gives me the blank, the next time I'll come back here. And I would say 99% of the time when I do that, I finally get what I want, as you see right here. And so I have my iOS team provisioning profile. I'm just going to sign it with this one, and I'm going to hit next, and it's going to ask me to save it to, it's going to sign the app, it's going to ask me to save it to the desktop, and all that, and we're going to be done. So now, let's say I wanted to do Android. Now that I've got the build already up there, and it's already in the system, now I can just go ahead and jump to Android. I don't have to go back and go through the whole process for the same app. And it's the same thing with Android. Put in your package name with the COM, My Studio, whatever. Put in your display name and put in your Android version code. This is the code that's looked at on the back end. You can't use decimal places in this. It only allows you to use whole numbers. Now in your publicly visible version, you can do like version 1.1, 1.2. This is where it'll show up. You can, if you're using the accelerometer stuff, you can click that in there. I always go with touchscreen default and your aspect ratio. It's basically the same stuff as the iOS publishing, and we'll just go ahead and go through that. And once you're there, I have a video on how to create your key store and set up all your stuff for Android. So we'll just go ahead and type in this, and we'll say test, and we're going to go with version 1, and this is version 1. And so now all our errors have gone away. Make sure everything's been saved. Don't get ahead of yourself and click generate, because until this information, you see all the saves are gone. If you kind of grab it in the middle of it and do it quickly, you won't get the versions and stuff won't come in right, especially if you're doing an update. So you can just generate APK, and it's going to give us the same message, and it's going to be the same situation that we ran into before with refreshing the page. So if you've got a decent app that's 50, 60 megabytes, give it 3, 4, 5 minutes, then hit refresh. If you've got something that's around 20 or 30, you can wait 2 or 3 minutes and go ahead and hit refresh till it shows up. And this time, I believe it'll ask me to reload. And we're going to go back over to Android, and we're going to see I'm ready. Now, you can download the project. This is going to give you an unsigned. What we want to do is sign it, because you need a signed one to run it on a device. And this will give you both. When you use the signed APK button, it'll give you both the unsigned one, which you use for distributing to certain stores like Amazon, and the signed one, which you use for distributing to put on your device for testing. There is no ad hoc or any of that kind of stuff. It's all the same signature for Android. We're going to get the same setup. We're going to get a little different situation. Now, when you hear people talk about your pointers, these are your pointers that we talk about in GameSalad that you'll get errors if you don't have green check marks here. So take note of these particular locations. So what all these things are different places, key tool, and this and that, and they're all in that SDK, their folder. So user bin, jar signer. These will be the same area for you. So if you go into select and you just want to find these pointers by remembering these different places, and just make sure you've got everything selected properly and all these check marks are good, then you're going to go ahead and select your key store. So you're just going to go in and find the key store that you made. That's my key store right there. And you're going to come in and you're going to put in your password for your key store. And then you're going to hit enter or return. And then you're going to come up into this next one. Hit enter or return. And that's it. You're done. Hit next. It'll sign it. Ask you where you want to download it. All that. You're good to go. And you can just keep doing this. You don't have to keep constantly going back and forth and pushing out a new build. If you want to do HTML5 from there, go ahead and do HTML5. If you want to do an iPad version, go ahead and fill out all the things. If you want to do a Mac version, go ahead and do it off the same build. If you want to do a Windows version, you don't have to go back and keep re-uploading the game every time you want to do a different setup. You can just go ahead and once you do the build, just like I said, come back to this window and just go through them all. And so if your portfolio gets bogged down with different things, you can go in and remove the game, and then you can go back to your portfolio like this. And let's say now that I'm done with this, I don't want this anymore. So you can just go ahead and click on that. And you can see all your builds. And you can say, remove this game, or if for some reason a project gets corrupted since the last time you built it and you want to go back and actually get the project, you can actually download the original GameSalad file that you put up there. If your computer crashed, just simply by going into the project like I just did, whatever one's listed in your portfolio, and hit download project. If you want to remove that one that like I just did, I want to remove it from my portfolio, I don't need it anymore, it's not a final build, I can just go ahead and get rid of it. And that's basically all you need to know about using the GameSalad publishing system. I hope this helps. This is Dave with Fry and Bacon Studios and another GameSalad tutorial. I'll see you in the next video.